So let me get started real quick. I'm Nikolas Huot. I'm the Assistant Vice President for Institutional Transformation at Complete College America. So thank you for joining us. Yes, you will have access to the PowerPoint. That's going to be, I'm sure, one of the questions I'm going to get. One thing also I'm excited about is, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a few seconds, is the upcoming publication. So I will refer to it, and you'll see a few things that are similar, or things that you will see in the publication. I anticipate the publication is going to be coming out later next month, in May, if you will, around this. The recording also will be available if you want to access it. Now, as you're seeing this, the publication, the presentation is called Purpose First 2.0, and some of you may be asking, well, where was Purpose First 1.0? I will talk about that in a second, so I want to make sure that we're not getting lost. Just, you're not behind in any way. We just want to make sure that you have access to what you need. So as we get started, there are too many of us really to go through round robin, but I would ask you to start thinking a little bit more about, as you were actually going into your college career, as you're about to embark into college, how did you actually pick your major? Who helped you? What information was helpful? What was going on in your world that you go like, you know what, this is something that really interests me. And then I would ask to start looking a little bit more about so currently, how are students embarking, starting college? How is that different than when you started college? And I'm not calling anybody old here. It was the same way for me. I think that, it's very much about it's during the admissions process, there's a drop down, and we basically so what's your major? And in some cases that's a little too much. That's it. We're not really doing a whole lot to support our students picking their majors and engaging with them. So Purpose First really, and that's going to be pretty much the tenor of this entire presentation, is how do we actively and intentionally engage students in that discovery process, in identifying why are you in college, what are you interested in, how do what you're doing actually connects to what your goal is, and how can we become partner between the college and the student in helping you achieve your goals. And we know that unfortunately right now, the way that we're asking our students to make their decisions around their majors leads to too many negative outcomes. Students who change majors. I changed my major 5 times at least officially. Probably in my mind, I change it more often than that. But students are basically swirling. They're taking too many courses that are not actually connected to what their majors are. So they're wasting money, they're wasting time, and which leads to, unfortunately, some students just realizing that, well, I guess I'm just not college material, and they just simply leave. So how, instead of just simply leaving it to the students to make their their decisions purely by selecting a drop-down menu, how do we actually play an active role in that discovery process, in that decision process with the students? And I don't need to tell you, obviously, that where we are right now, I think that higher education is under attack right now. So you do see about the rising skepticism of is college really worth it? About a lot of students saying that they are not employed in careers associated with their majors and so on and so forth. You do hear about how employers those college students, they're not prepared to workforce and so on and so forth. So how this is what's happening right now. And I think that Purpose First, to me, by being explicit, by being specific, I think can help address some of those kind of things. And these are just some of the more numbers about only a third of our students are saying that their college degree was extremely useful in building workplace relevant skills. And I think at least the same number, 1 in 3, still think that if they were to redo their college experience, they would choose a different major altogether. Only half, or at least half of our students feel underqualified for entry-level jobs. And some of it is not because of the skills and competencies. It's very much about how we talk about skills and competencies, how we talk about learning outcomes. And again, actively engage students in the discovery process, in the reflection process, to see like, this is why you're doing this. This is what you're learning in this class. This is how it's going to help you move forward into the career that you have chosen. And the last number, I think that's the one to me that's maybe a little bit the worst part, is that students who are by first gen and low income students who would most benefit from the economic mobility that a college degree would lead, report that they're not enrolled in a job related to their studies, which again only contributes to the skepticism of the value of college. So this is kind of what we see right now. Like, right, when I asked you earlier, like, well, how do students actually pick their majors right now, and maybe how you also pick your major? This is what we do. This is what we see. We cross our fingers and we hope that students pick the right major around, like, the super long wheel of all majors. And I think, maybe some of you have seen this. We a lot of our institutions like pride ourselves. Like, we have 120 programs on our campus. Like, that's awesome. Like, yeah, it is to a point. The problem right now is that you're asking students to make a decision about like which of these 120 should they pick, and how are we actually helping them pick those majors. We cross our fingers and we hope that they make an informed decision around this, when we do know, unfortunately, that they do not have all the information at their fingertips, or they have not done their research, because in some cases they don't even know where to find that information. So how do we change that a little bit? We hope that they find the information on our website, and I will try not to get on my soapbox about how websites are designed. Right now, the way that most websites are designed, they reflect our internal structure, rather than the student experience. And we're using a whole lot of jargon and things like that. And we're expecting somehow students to find the information that's relevant for them. We hope that students, find the resources and use them that will help them during their careers, and they understand why they're in college, what they're going to learn, and so on and so forth. Again, we make a lot of assumptions without actually engaging the students and being explicit about this. And we cross our fingers that we hope that somehow, just by being in our area, in the classroom, on our campus, that they will all of that will become clear. All of that is going to be totally clear once they're doing this. I can tell you right now, it is not the case. So I think we cannot just leave it to the students to, and for us, we cannot leave it to cross our fingers and hope for the best that everything is going to work out for them. So purpose first, again, is how do we actually actively engage, again, our students to make decisions around their career and their majors that are connected to their goals. And one thing I want to add, again, is that it has to be explicit. It has to be inclusive, as in inclusive to every single student, not just the undeclared students who are walking through our doors. Every single student, not because they're declared that they're decided, or not because they're declared they use effective information to actually make that decision. And how is it and inclusive in terms of everyone around campus, which I'll talk about that in a second. And how is it integrated throughout the student experience? It cannot just be kind of what we were doing with Purpose First 1.0 just during the first year of their college experience. How do we make sure that we continue this throughout the entire student experience? And this is where the Purpose First 2.0 comes in. So we do have a couple of publications on our website. They are free. The last one, I think, is like College on Purpose, really focuses on the college or Purpose First 1.0. So when we started, we really focused on the onboarding aspect of it. How can college become active partners in the student exploration of their major and their careers? And they make an informed decisions. So that's really where we're talking about admissions, orientation, advising, and first year experience. And that's really where we were focusing on with Purpose First 1.0. The 2.0 really came in when a lot of institutions that we're working with that's great. Now students know why they're in college and why they're in the classroom, but what happens after that? How do we make sure that that exploration, that conversation around majors, around careers, about relevance continues? in the classroom and in different activities. This is where 2.0 comes in. So how do we bring in faculty members? How are we bringing more academic affairs? How we bring external partners around, the employers so that they are engaged in that conversation? How do we engage? And by we, I mean higher education, engage different partners as well in supporting our students in that aspect of it. So this is where we are right now, and I think this is kind of a snapshot, if you will, or at least a synthesis of the publication that you're going to see. So we kind of like retool a little bit the Purpose First 1.0 to look at the different areas of the phases of the student journey, and we expanded them a little bit more to these 6 areas. And in the publication, what you're going to see is a little bit more, obviously, discussion about what are these different phases, different practices, policies, implementations, assessments, as well around these particular, and technology, I may have said that for each of those different phases. One thing before I go on, I want to emphasize this, is that these 6 are not necessarily linear. Some of our students will start with the discovery and move on to a line and map and so on and so forth. A lot of our students will not move to this. They will come in a little bit later. They already know what they want to do, so we can actually help them move on, directly start from map, and so on and so forth. We'll have transfer students where they come in. We'll have adult students who may have different experiences as well, and they're where they fit into this. We'll have students who change majors. They may have to go back to the discovery phase and things like that. So I just don't want you to look at these 6 phases and see like, oh, this is a one size fits all, or this is exactly, they start with discovery and they end with launch. There might be back and forth. They may be reverse because of, again, life experiences or things that happen on there. So I think for the sake of time today, I kind of want to just focus on 3 of them. And the first one is really where I think that the Purpose First 1.0. So this is where I mean that you're not late to the party. So this is really where Purpose First 1.0 was focusing a lot, is around the discovery aspect of it. So how do we engage students in their interests? How do we help them identify their goals, help identify their why, and how do we actually actively engage? So again, not just like I build this website, cross our fingers that students will actually use them. A website is not active. It's not actively engaging unless you're actually bringing students in, with that website during the admissions process or during the orientation or the FYE. So how do we actually build upon the information that we already have, but we actually create activities or assignments with our students to actually, help them make an informed decision around this. So you'll see in the publication that we kind of for the implementation process, we kind of split the implementation practices in 3 different areas. So essential practices, things that a lot of you are probably doing already. So I think we're not reinventing the wheel. We're really just making sure that you're already doing some of the work around Purpose First, and we're really helping move the needle towards that. Leveling up is when you're actually, again, moving the needle a little bit more. You're bringing different folks to the conversation. You're emphasizing communication across campus, and then leading with purpose is when that conversation, the purpose, the activities is become much more embedded into the culture and into the student experience in this way. So when you talk about discover, what interest assessments do you have in the admissions process, and not just wait after they're admitted, but is there a way to actually bring that information and that assessment even prior to students trying to enroll and submitting the admissions process on your campus, so that they can make a different decision, and they can actually see how the institution will play a part in them reaching their goals in that way. Talk about meta majors. If you're not clear about meta majors, and some of your institutions are using it a different way by calling it different things, it doesn't really matter what you call it. It's just basically meta major, and I don't know if you see me or just the slide, but meta major is, again, it's a structure basically that helps with the exploration, where, for example, all the business students would come together into a process that they are taking classes, obviously, that helps them and go through experiences that helps them get a better understanding of what business is in the business world, but also start exploring the different levers, or the different, not levers, but different majors associated with business. So let's talk about, econ, if it's in the business major, accounting, finance, real estate. What are they? What are the differences between each of them? What are the potential careers that lead into this? What are the skills and competencies? What are you going to do in this program? What are the careers associated with it, and so on and so forth? So the meta major is a structure that helps with the the exploration of the different majors within a specific discipline in that way. And again, some of the other ways we're looking with leading with purpose around first year exploration or first year experience course. Do you have a course that is around like student success, whether you call it FYE, student success, or whatever you want to call it? It doesn't matter, but how do you actually have, embed the exploration with major and career into that course? And there are a lot of different ways to actually do this. A lot of times it's just assignments. Can you have the students explore their majors? You have them doing assignments, completing assignments where they do some research around their majors, what they're interested in, what are the potential jobs that lead to this, and then they present with the rest of the class. So in this way, they are active participants, but you, as an instructor of the FYE course, facilitate that exploration through something much more structured in that way. And by doing those, just as some of the examples that we're looking at, and by doing this, by being an active and actively engaging students in the exploration, what we do see, obviously, that students are hopefully becoming a little bit more confident in their choices. They're less likely to actually change their majors. They reduce the aspirational and the awareness gaps, and that's a big thing. I think a lot of students are coming in, they know some things. They don't know all of the labor market data and the potential careers out there. So how do we actually help them, explore those kind of things and, increase their awareness of what's happening out there in terms of the workforce, in terms of what's happening in the college and different majors, but also, build up their aspirations. So you're interested in being a nurse's aide. That's great. There's nothing wrong with that. Have you also considered being a nurse? Let's just talk about that. Can we start with that instead of just simply like nurse's aide? Okay, checkbox. Let's move on. Let's register for the classes in that program. There's nothing wrong with that, but we should also have a conversation with them about like why nurse's aide. Let's talk a bit more about that. Do you know what it entails? Do you also know like the potential career growth in that field, and what else you can also expect? So those what you see at the bottom here is like Colorado State, and I need to confirm with them. But what they did have in the past was a career interest assessment available on their website, and it really helped them. It helps students obviously make a better informed choice around their majors and pick which major available at Colorado State. But by having that information, it also helped decrease summer melt, because then students understand like, oh, I know why I'm here, and I know how Colorado State is actually going to help me get to where I need to go. I don't need to go anywhere else. They provide me with the tools to actually move forward a little bit more. EAB, I think some of you probably do have Navigate, and I'm pretty sure that they still have that function, but you don't even need EAB to do that. Once students have declared a major, how about sending them a little bit more information about that major? And then you say like, so you say you're interested in finance. That's awesome. Here's more information. You may also be interested in, econ, accounting, and other fields that are similar in that area. This is where the meta major comes in. You bring in more information, and what EAB saw is that by providing that information to their majors, but also other relevant majors associated with that, about a quarter of the students were changing majors right there and then before registering for classes. And by doing so, I think a lot of them, again, they made informed decisions around their majors. And for those who didn't, hopefully now they have even more information at their fingertips to confirm their original choice about their majors. So that helped a great deal And what we see with my majors, again, providing information about labor market data, it also contributed to fewer students changing majors. So we're talking about, again, more students who are, in terms of major stability, and less likelihood of students taking and enrolling in classes that they don't need towards graduation. College Student Southern Nevada built the whole meta major structure, not just by itself, but also they created a lot of videos that really focus on helping students make an informed decision, and not just so much about the major per se, but very much about the meta major. So they had videos around the different meta majors with the end of mind in terms of like, what are you interested in doing? Great. We do have these structures or these majors that lead to these particular career. There are under the health sciences meta major and so on and so forth. So they provided more information, actively engaged students, outreach also with potential students around the meta major structure. Again, whether you call it meta majors or not, does not matter, but it's really about the structure and the engaging and the outreach to students. And then what they did is then to make sure that if it works, let's build it into the cake. So they actually provided into the policy to make sure that there are support, resources that allow students, resources and practices that help students support and identify their majors through the meta major structure in that way. And then finally, in this area, we're looking at Houston Community College, and this is not the only one. Obviously, I think you can find a lot of great examples across the country around first-year experience courses. But Houston Community College is requiring all first-time in college students to enroll into a first-year experience course. That course includes different resources and assignments around career exploration. They are using Lightcast Career Coach. One thing that I really like, about the Houston Community College is that even before students enroll into a first-year experience course, all the undeclared students are connected with a career coach that actually helps them and have that conversation about what are you interested in? Why are you in college? How can we actually help you get to where you need to? So having that information and that engagement at the front end, so by the time they enroll in the first year experience course, they're more ready to actually get building into their careers and take classes that are a little bit more better engaged to their interested in their goals. Moving on to maps, I'm a huge fan of academic maps. I can talk about maps all day, but this goes beyond the actual physical academic maps that you have on your website. And I think that it needs to go to be a little bit more. So it's really about also actively engaging students and helping them identify required skills and address knowledge gaps. So how do we, in your program maps, in your syllabi, how do we make sure that the learning outcomes and skills and competencies are clearly articulated, that they are on the syllabus? And this is what I mean by skills and competencies and learning outcomes. In academia, on all of our syllabi, really, we have learning outcomes. What are the learning outcomes associated with this particular course? By the end of the course, students should be able to do X, Y, and Z. So this is learning outcomes. When we go into the workforce, we're talking about skills and competencies. A lot of times they're extremely well aligned, and there's a clear, equivalency, at least one that lead to another. But because we're speaking different languages and using different terms, students are not always able to articulate to the workforce and to their potential employers, this is what I learned in my class. This is what I'm able to do. And this is where I think that the disconnect between the workforce and academia is that the workforce is like, well, students are ready to the workforce. Like they just don't know what to articulate because we did not help them. We did not use the same language. So we're not actually preparing them to go into the workforce. So how do we actually, help that, how we translate that, how we crosswalk skills and competencies into learning outcomes and vice versa in the syllabus, but also in the program maps, in the academic maps. So how do we crosswalk and also scaffold those into the academic maps? How do we embed extracurricular activities? I know that it shouldn't come as a surprise to any of you, but learning happens outside the classroom as well. And a lot of things that is happening on the college campus do contribute to students becoming, in terms of like, or better proficient into the soft skills or building skills or durable skills, whatever you want to call it. So how do we not only share this, but how do we embed those activities into the college experience, into the student's experience, and not just like leave them and hope, again, cross our fingers and hope that they actually participate in these kind of things. And again, how do we bring in, again, with the comprehensive learning record or with capstone experiences, how do we make sure that we talk about the language, prepare them into the our students to capture what they're learning and building those skills. So this is from my former colleague at Georgia State University, and this is the old version. I'm looking forward to see the new version. But it's basically a drag and drop. So what she did is she used the NACE's competencies, the career competencies, NACE's National Association of College and Employers, and every year they survey the workforce. It's like, what are the skills and competencies that you want your your employees to have? And what she did here is she listed the different competencies and the different skills associated with each of the competencies. So obviously this is an image, but you can click, as a faculty member, I can say, well, in my class, I'm already doing, like learning outcomes is around critical thinking. So I don't have to change my syllabus or change really my curriculum. I'm already doing this. What are the skills associated with critical thinking? And then from here, I can drag and drop these into, oops, sorry about that. Drag into the applied, and then you can basically changing the competencies, changing the skills. You can embed that into your syllabus in that way. So it's an easy way to crosswalking learning outcomes and skills and competencies by not necessarily changing anything, simply by being explicit about what you're going to learn, what are the skills and competencies, and being relevant and emphasizing the relevance rather in your course. The new version, from what she told me, that this is embedded into the learning management system. And as the faculty member is developing or embedding an assignment, there's a pop-up that says, hey, I see a new assignment. You want to assign like what skills and competencies our students are going to be doing as part of this assignment. So you can actually already doing it, and it's part of the culture now for every single faculty member. So she's about to share a little bit more information. So once I have that, I'll be able to share it as well with everybody else in the Alliance. But this is something fairly, I don't want to say simple, but it is not as complicated as it needs to be, especially if you have the know-how of creating this type of tool. When we're talking about accurate maps, again, it's something I want to emphasize that this is not simply just the PDF list of courses, like, the static list of courses, 15 hours every single semester and things like that. What else? What other information do we need to provide into this? So what are the milestones? We also need, as you see, the easily accessible. So where are they? What information? Right now, I can pretty much tell you that a lot of the information that I'm about to tell you that should be embedded into the accurate maps are already on your website. The problem is that they are everywhere on your website, and you hope that students actually click on the right link, search for the right term to actually find that information. Why are we doing this? Well, because that's our internal structure. How about we actually facilitate this to our students and make sure that all that information is collected in one central page so that all of our students can actually see all of that. So we're looking here around, milestone, yes. We already know a lot of cases, especially if you're talking to students or advisors or faculty members, when the students actually are potentially stumbling because of, the time of the year or the particular major or particular semester because they're taking specific courses. So how about we actually bring in the resources and we actually being explicit about, hey, this semester, what we've seen is that it's particularly challenging. So we will make sure that you get the resources. How about you go to tutoring? How about you connect with this particular person who's going to help you, hone your studying skills and things like that, or your note-taking, because this is going to be a heavy reading classes and so on and so forth. So the just-in-case, just-in-time services help a great deal. as I'm sharing this link or these links, this PowerPoint rather, these links are live. One thing I want to emphasize very quickly around the program outcomes, University of Delaware, I love their website. It is one link, basically a one click from their main website, and it is their alumni information, and it shows where are they now. Like, students who graduate in, you choose which program, which cohort, how many of them are still in college or pursuing a different degree, how many of them are in the workforce, what type of jobs are they, job titles, in what industry, what are their salaries, what region of the country, if they're pursuing a different job, a different degree, in what school, and so on and so forth. So it shares a little bit more information, again, about students who've come before me, have been successful in these programs, and are basically moving towards that. So I'm not a trailblazer. Other people have done this that emphasize the relevance, emphasize against the path towards career and towards hopefully student success in that aspect of it. The major in a minute video, Georgia State no longer uses those, which well, that's their choice. But it's a really thing. What I really like is, like, it literally is a 2-minute video about why should students be excited about this particular major. And you can literally use your phone. You don't need a whole set of cameras and boombox and whatever, all that stuff that I had to do that when I was on a college campus. You can really use your phone. Go to a faculty member and say, I'm going to ask you one quick question. Why should students be excited about this major? And then you can personally do the same thing with our students about, like, hey, what do you like about this major? And pose that. Again, I think a lot of students are much more interested in watching a 2-minute video than reading a very long, boring, in some cases, website. So change it up a little bit more and answer some of the questions around this. And again, what you'll see on the website or on the PowerPoint are some of the AI that you can actually use to facilitate some of those things. So predictive analytics can definitely identify some of the potential roadblocks. When are they, and then what areas? Just like AI can also help you generate career paths per major and regional labor market data and things like that. There are a lot of different technology available out there associated with that. I'm going to try again. I can talk about maps all day, so I'll try to go fast around this. But other information that I would encourage you, again, to emphasize the relevance, to help students, explore and map their entire journey. When talking about the pathway, be explicit around this. So what other information should students know about the major? This is where the short video can be helpful. What policies do you have on campus, on your campus around some of those particular programs around this? Are there specific gen ed courses that are preferred? A lot of times you'll see the the gen ed, the list of courses is pretty long again, and I understand that it is very political. I understand that. I would recommend that you take this particular course or one of these 2 courses around the gen ed for your particular major. I understand about the politics. I used to be a college counselor, but at the same time, you need to look at the learning outcomes. You need to look at the skills and competencies associated with each of these courses, and you need to actually point to students like these particular courses will help you achieve the better goals. They will actually help you prepare towards the other courses in your programs and things like that. Be explicit. I understand again, but this is for students, not necessarily for the politics of the different MDFD of different departments around this. And then what other action item that you recommend that students complete per every single major or every single semester or year around this? Again, the AI, the difference between blue and red here is that the blue ones are free. I mean, you can basically, right now, you can go on your catalog and you can copy a policy, put it in ChatGPT or Claude, the free version, and you can say, hey, can you summarize this and eliminate the jargon and make it for a reading level of a freshman in college? So again, you're not changing the policy, you're changing how you actually communicate the policy to students who need to actually understand it. And that summarizing and that summary of the policy, especially if you're talking about, repeat to replace, grade assignments, or whatever it is, you can actually put it on the website and on the map so that students can actually be better prepared. They don't have to, again, we're not crossing our fingers and we hope that students go read the catalog. Because let's be honest, nobody reads the catalog. The only person who reads the catalog is the person who edits the catalog. And I can say that because I was editing the catalog and I was the only one in my office who was actually reading it. So how do we facilitate that dissemination of information to our students? And again, the same thing, eliminating the if you know, you know, right? I mean, I think a lot of times there are a lot of different activities on campus and that only the privileged few are able to, avail themselves of those resources. How do we bring those to the forefront so that every single student can avail themselves of those resources? And we actually say, successful students at my institution in these particular programs do these things. How can I make sure that you actually participate and use those resources? And again, other things that should be, I think, as I'm talking about that, should be evident by now, like, employment information around, what are the jobs associated with these particular major and different programs, what are labor market data. I would emphasize the starting salary rather than a median turn. We want to make sure that students are, again, I know exactly what I'm getting as I'm leaving, not 5 years or 10 years down the road. What is it, the regional job demand on your campus? If you live in Kansas and you're doing a degree in marine biology, you probably will have to move if you want a job. I mean, this is an obvious example, but for all of your majors that you're offering, is there a clear demand in your region, or will students actually have to move, even if it's like, to a couple counties down the road or something like that? How do we make sure that we actually be explicit around those kind of things? Skills and competencies, I'll talk a little bit more about that. And this is where the stackable credentials play a great part in this. And I apologize, again, it's very busy, I understand, but you will have access to all of that. But how AI can actually, if you do have a spreadsheet of all your list of courses on your campus with learning outcomes and skills and competencies, AI can help identify the stackable credentials that will meet with the workforce demand, especially if you do talk to the workforce, folks in your campus or in your region, to see like what are the skills and competencies that you want students to have as they graduate for those kind of things. So AI can help facilitate that discovery, can help facilitate that discussion on your campus around those kind of things. Finally, again, alumni information, transfer opportunity, co-curricular activities, those are all things that I would strongly encourage that you do. And this is an example of a map from Marshall University. I love Marshall University. The first page is basically the map of this. It is a traditional academic map that you see. So the list of courses, milestones, every semester, these are the courses that we recommend that you take, preferred grades, and things like that. But for every single one of their majors, they also have involvement opportunities on campus. What should we would recommend that you do? Related majors, talk about skills and competencies, jobs as well, potential careers, and what you see, graduation requirements. So again, some of the policies, talk about the policies, so make sure that students are not stumbling towards the end here. And then every year, let's talk about different activities that successful students in that particular major, we recommend that they do. And again, we're not talking about like, super detailed. In this case is a one-pager back and front that we can actually share with students. On the website, how about we actually include links? How do we make sure that we embed this? How do we make sure that that information is in the FYE course, in the student orientation? How to make sure that every single faculty member in that department contributes to that list, but also bring it, in their courses, in their LMS, in their syllabus, so that students see it. That's like, this is all part of the entire student journey, and the faculty members are active participants in that discovery and in that growth. Finally, again, for the sake of time, I'm combining both like experience and reflect, but there are other opportunities here. So this is where I think we're bringing the 2.0 of the Purpose First a little bit more, which is very much bringing the faculty much more and bringing it to the classroom. So how do we actually facilitate the conversation and provide guidance and to faculty member to talk about skills, competencies, talk about the relevance into the classroom. So it's not enough to just give the information to students and expect, again, cross our fingers and hope that faculty members are going to talk about that. How we help them make sense of this, how we help them create, activities, assignments, prompts to help students, reflect about the relevance around those kind of things, to help them compile the, artifacts in terms of what they're building in their courses to actually help them or help students rather, better articulate and see the relevance and see the growth in their academic journey throughout their college. So some of the things, again, modified syllabus language. I think a lot of times we have assignments and it's like complete a 20-page paper. Great. How do I get started? So I think that this is where I really like transparency in learning and teaching, so called TILT, which is not changing your syllabus, or at least not changing the particular assignments, just talking about or changing how you talk about it. What information are you providing with the different assignments to emphasize the process, talk about the relevance also. In some cases, what are steps that you need to get to the end goal? So it's not just a 20-page paper, it's very much like composed. So you're breaking down, you're scaffolding the assignment to emphasize a little bit more the transparency about what you were expecting and how we actually get to that point. How we integrate experiential learning into the curriculum. I think that there are some majors and some programs that are better suited for internships and things like that. I'm thinking about business, computer science, and those kind of things. That's great. How about humanities? How about health sciences? How about social sciences? How do we embed learning opportunities, into these programs, not just for a chosen few, but for every single program, every single student in those programs, so they can actually start seeing how what they're learning in the classroom actually is, is actually done in the real world, and what's the relevance of this, and how it's being applied in the real world. So this is where Ripen, People Grove are, companies that basically can facilitate this. I've worked, again, CCA is technology agnostic, but we've been working with Ripen for a couple of things. I really like their database. It really helps connect faculty members with workforce, and it's project-based. So you're not, again, you don't have to create an entire course in your program around experiential learning or internship. You can embed those into existing courses and use an assignment in that course around that embed an experiential learning opportunity in a real world experience in that way. Then we move a little bit more about faculty support around major and career information. Again, not because they're faculty, not because they know everything around their majors or about their particular area. They know about the career and about the job market in their fields. So how do we actually provide guidance? How do we actually support the faculty members so that they feel more comfortable talking about those kind of things in the classrooms, or making connections also with the workforce and things like that. So this is where we provide resources to faculty members. Design career competency assessment tools that reflect that incorporate the self-reflection. Again, it's not enough for telling students. In some cases, we actually have to take a stop and go like, okay, I need you to start looking at in your experience in this course and in other courses. Let's reflect about what have you been learning? Where are you now right now? In your skills, in your level, in terms of competencies, and how is it going to be ready to take the next step? What else do you need to learn to be ready into the workforce, and so on and so forth. So I think we need to, again, actively engage the students in the reflection process and providing them external feedback with faculty members, advisors, career services, and things like that. So this is where the Purpose First 2.0 comes in, is that it's very much around not just one office, not just one person, but how do we make sure we embed all these types of activities and that they're a continuum throughout the entire student journey and student experience around those kind of things. So, oops, sorry. Nope, not wrong thing. So again, I went really fast. The publication, I think it's very good. I'm very biased, I have to say, but like I said, I think some of the things that you're going to see are going to be a little bit more institutional practices. You're going to see different implementation practices. We're talking about policies. We're talking about technology, how technology can facilitate the implementation of these practices. We're talking about the assessment, not just the end, but also how the assessment of the processes as well. How do you make sure that we're on the right track around those kind of things? So this is going to be coming up fairly soon. Like I said, like I would anticipate at the end of May around this. So with this, I will stop sharing. I'm happy to, feel free to unmute yourself. I'm happy to answer any questions, comments, concerns, things that I should have said that I did not say, things that you go like, have you also considered XYZ? I'm open to all of this. So yeah, I'll stop here.
Hi, Nikolas. How will the toolkit be shared out?
So first of all, it's going to be on the website. What a great T-ball question for CCA. Thank you, Jamia. My colleague, Jamia from CCA. So the publication is going to be available on our website. It's going to be for free. Obviously, we do have the registration for this webinar. So as soon as the publication is available, we can also send you the link to the publication to everyone who has been registered as well. And the PowerPoint will be shared to the same thing. People who've registered for this this webinar will also be receiving the PowerPoint copy of this. And by the way, if as you're going through the publication and go like, actually, we do this really well. Like, how come we're not on this publication? Well, what I was going to ask you is like, well, you need to reach out to me because what I do anticipate is that there will be a Purpose Source 2.1 or the expanded edition where we're going to have a lot more opportunities to showcase institutional effectiveness and institutional practices. So we do want to build who's doing what on across campus site, and also how did you do this, and how can we connect you with you and the other institutions that are eager to learn a little bit more about like how do I get to that particular aspect. I know you're all busy, so I do appreciate your time today. By the way, I do see a few familiar faces from Louisiana. So Dr. Barnes-Teamer, I'm sure had a role to play in this. So thank you for bringing so many great folks. But thank you again for all your time. I will share the PowerPoint with you later this week, and maybe the link for the publication, the recording of this. So if you want to share your colleagues to your colleagues about this.